Polybius' The Histories, Historiae, is more than just a historical narrative of Rome's rise to power. It also has a deep philosophical dimension. While Polybius was not a philosopher in the same sense as Plato or Aristotle, his work is profoundly shaped by philosophical concerns, particularly in its approach to causation, political theory, historical determinism, and ethics. His perspective aligns with the pragmatic and rationalist traditions of Hellenistic philosophy, particularly Stoicism and Aristotelian political thought. This analysis explores the philosophical underpinnings of the Histories, focusing on Polybius's views on historical causation, the nature of political systems, moral education through history, and the role of fate. Tyche versus human agency. The philosophy of history in Polybius. Polybius was deeply concerned with the methodology of history, making him one of the earliest thinkers to systematically analyze how history should be written and interpreted. His approach is fundamentally empirical, rational, and pragmatic, influenced by the scientific mindset of Aristotle and the emphasis on practical knowledge seen in Stoicism. 1.1. Historical causation and rational explanation. A central theme in the Histories is Polybius's effort to understand the causes of historical events. Unlike earlier historians such as Herodotus, who attributed events to divine will or fate, Polybius emphasizes rational analysis and cause-effect relationships. He categorizes historical causation into three levels. 1. Immediate causes, specific actions or decisions that trigger events, e.g., Hannibal crossing the Alps. 2. Underlying causes, structural or long-term factors, e.g., tensions between Rome and Carthage. 3. Fundamental causes, deep-rooted political or social dynamics, Rome's superior constitution. By distinguishing between these levels, Polybius approaches history in a way similar to Aristotle's four causes in philosophy, particularly his efficient and final causes. Polybius believed that history should be studied scientifically, emphasizing reason, empirical evidence, and logical deduction. 1.2. Universal history as a rational system. Polybius argues that history is interconnected and should be studied as a whole rather than in isolated parts. This concept, which he calls universal history, suggests that events in different parts of the world are linked by cause and effect. He criticizes earlier historians for focusing only on their own states or regions, failing to see the bigger picture. His view reflects the Hellenistic cosmopolitanism of the time, where thinkers such as the Stoics saw the world as a single unified system governed by rational laws. Similarly, Polybius sees history as operating under rational principles, where patterns and cycles can be observed and analyzed. 2. Political philosophy in the Histories. A major focus of the Histories is Polybius's analysis of political systems and why Rome succeeded while other states failed. His ideas are deeply influenced by Aristotle's political theory, particularly the concept of political stability and the best form of government. 2.1. The theory of anacyclosis, political cycles. One of Polybius's most famous contributions to political philosophy is his theory of anacyclosis, which describes the cyclical nature of political systems. He argues that governments inevitably pass through a sequence of changes in a predictable pattern. 1. Monarchy, rule by a single virtuous leader. 2. Tyranny, corruption and abuse of power. 3. Aristocracy, rule by the noble elite. 4. Oligarchy, corruption of aristocracy. 5. Democracy, rule by the people when properly balanced. 6. Ochlocracy, mob rule, degeneration of democracy into chaos. 7. Return to monarchy, cycle begins again. This theory, which has parallels in Plato's political cycle in the Republic and Aristotle's classification of governments, suggests that no political system is permanent or perfect. Instead, each system contains the seeds of its own destruction. Rome's mixed constitution as a solution. Polybius argues that Rome's mixed constitution is superior because it combines elements of monarchy, consuls, aristocracy, senate, and democracy, popular assemblies, preventing the extremes of any single system. This idea is heavily influenced by Aristotle's concept of the best government as a mixed regime, politeia. This balance, according to Polybius, is what allowed Rome to avoid the rapid decay seen in other states like Carthage or the Greek city-states. His analysis of Rome's stability had a profound influence on later political thinkers, including Machiavelli, Montesquieu, and the founding fathers of the United States, who used Polybius's ideas when designing the American Constitution. History as moral and practical education. Polybius sees history not just as a record of events, but as a moral and practical guide for statesmen and military leaders. This reflects the pragmatic philosophy of Stoicism, which emphasizes learning from past experiences to achieve wisdom and virtue. 3.1. History as a guide for statesmen. For Polybius, studying history helps rulers and generals avoid mistakes and make rational decisions. He criticizes historians who write purely for entertainment, arguing that history must be objective, free from bias and personal opinions. Based on direct observation, he emphasizes autopsy or eyewitness accounts, focused on practical lessons rather than myths or legends. This reflects the Stoic idea of practical wisdom, phronesis, which teaches that knowledge should serve a useful purpose in life. 3.2. The ethical role of history. Polybius believes that history teaches virtue and moral lessons, especially in the examples of great leaders like Scipio Africanus, who exemplifies courage, discipline, and wisdom. He contrasts these with figures like Hannibal, whose ambition led to his downfall. This ethical perspective aligns with Aristotle's virtue ethics, where history serves as a moral compass by showing the consequences of different actions. 4. The role of fate versus human agency. A key philosophical tension in the Histories is the role of fate versus human decision-making. Unlike some of his contemporaries, Polybius does not completely reject the idea of fate, but argues that human reason and political institutions play a greater role in shaping history. 4.1. Fortune as an uncontrollable force. Polybius acknowledges that some events, such as natural disasters or unforeseen wars, are beyond human control. He refers to these as the work of tyche, fate, or fortune. However, he criticizes historians who rely too much on divine explanations, arguing that these events should still be analyzed rationally. 4.2. The primacy of human action. Despite recognizing tyche, Polybius believes that human agency, rational decision-making, and strong political institutions are the main drivers of history. He argues that Rome's success was not due to luck, but because of its superior constitution, its disciplined military, its pragmatic leadership. This reflects a rationalist worldview where human intelligence and effort determine outcomes rather than fate alone. Polybius's The Histories is not only a remarkable historical account, but also a philosophical analysis of politics, history, and human nature. His ideas on historical causation, political cycles, mixed government, and the role of fortune versus human agency make his work deeply relevant beyond its immediate historical context. By emphasizing rational analysis, political pragmatism, and the ethical function of history, Polybius bridges the gap between history and philosophy, influencing later political thought and historical writing for centuries. His work remains a crucial text for understanding the philosophical dimensions of history and governance.